If you're an entrepreneur or sales professional and you're not using AI and automation, your business is already falling behind. Welcome to the Done by One podcast. My name is Danielle Damianov, where we break down how modern businesses are using AI and automation and systems to scale faster without working longer hours. On this show, I interview business owners, operators, and industry leaders who are actually implementing AI, not just talking about it. We cut through the hype and we focus on what works, what doesn't, and what you need to start doing now. Because the gap between businesses that automate and those that don't is getting wider every day. If you are ready to future-proof your business and stop doing everything manually, you are in the right place. So let's dive in. Hey everybody, it's Danielle Damianov with Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, and I am so excited to have Chris Gavre here today. Did I say it right?
You did. I'm
Okay,
impressed.
perfect. He started in real estate at a very young age, got 150 rental units, and then decided to, I guess, pivot, I would say, right, into buying land and putting mobile homes in affordable housing. And you do about 50 of those a year. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Why don't you tell everybody like a little bit about you, how you got started, and then I guess why you made that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my journey about 2019. I had a pressure washing company at the time. I had a part-time job, was kind of looking to get entrepreneurial. And this guy had a podcast called The Sweaty Startup. And his whole theory was go start a service-based company that's kind of easy to get into. Your competition probably sucks. They don't know how to do sales and marketing, so you can go in there and really get started. So I did that. And this realtor had a bunch of rentals, and he'd also flip houses. And so I was always watching his houses or apartment buildings or his listings. And one day he sat me down in his office, and I don't know, maybe 20 at the time. And then, hey, what's your goal? Like, what are you trying to do? And like everyone else, my first entrepreneurial goal was I want to make 100 grand a year. And he's like, man, you're gonna have to watch a lot of houses. You're gonna be a tired boy doing that. You should think about getting into real estate. And so 2020, he nudged me to go get my real estate license. I went and did that. Started out on the retail side. Uh, First listing I ever did was this old mobile home. It was my mom's neighbor, and he wanted 50 grand for it. But he didn't want me to list it. He's like, just go bring me a buyer, and I'll pay you 3%. Like, okay, whatever. Long story short, the person that came along and did the deal, her name was Maria. And after we did the transaction about a month later, I was like, hey, what'd you ever do with that mobile home? And she's like, oh, I wholesaled it. And I was like, what is that? And she told me, and long story short, she made $20,000 on the deal. And after I paid my brokerage and all that, I made like $900. So I'm like, wow, I'm on the wrong side of this business. And so she was like, you should get into wholesaling. So she kind of taught me how to do cold calling, how to pull the list. Her and I partnered for a little while and did, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 transactions, wholesale transactions, that is, together. But she really planted the seed of me wholesaling. And so after her and I parted ways, I continued to wholesale, started to flip houses and kind of accumulate rentals where I could, using hard money or creative finance or whatever strategy I needed. And fast forward to about 2022 in South Carolina, I'm out of Greenville, South Carolina. The licensing board for South Carolina changed their regulations on wholesaling. So they didn't want realtors to be wholesaling anymore. So I got a cease and desist order because I was a realtor. And so I said, man, I can't wholesale houses anymore. What should I do? So I started getting into mobile home parks, and I was wholesaling mobile home parks. Long story short, I met this guy named Robert, who's my partner now. Um, was trying to wholesale him a mobile home park, and my assignment fee was like 75 grand, and he was like, I don't want to pay that much, but he's like, I'll put up the money, and you just partner with me on it. So he put up the money. We bought the mobile home park together. After that, we kind of hit it off. He's like, let's flip some houses together. We started flipping a little bit, and then in that mobile home park we bought, there were some empty lots. And he was telling me how he had a dealer's license, which allowed him to go directly to mobile home manufacturers like Clayton or Champion or whoever and get brand new houses at wholesale prices. And I was like, man, he was telling me what we could get a new single wide for to fill our lots. It was like 30 grand at the time. I said, man, that's really cheap. What can you get a double wide for? They're, I don't know, like 55. I was like, wow, we should buy a lot, put these brand new houses on it, set them up, make them FHA compliant, and then just sell them on the market. And this was back in 2023, very beginning of 2023, so a little over 3 years now. And I had never heard of anyone doing this at that time. I thought we came up with that. I thought we were wizards. So we bought 5 lots. and started off with those. They turned out really, really well. And as we kind of continued to do more of them, there were some issues that we ran into. But as we ironed out the process, we realized this is a lot easier than flipping houses. It's a lot more predictable. And we just love the business model because when you're flipping houses, there's always a problem. There's always a surprise. I mean, I'm sure
Oh
you know
yeah.
how that goes. But with these, they're built in a factory and they're inspected before they left the factory. So you know what you're getting. And then on top of that, the process is the exact same every single time. You're just clearing the land, putting in utilities, installing the house. Where with flipping houses, when we were trying to scale, it was never the same because every house has different issues. A surprise comes up, you name it. And so it's a lot harder to build a predictable model with flipping houses, but we were able to do that with this, and we kind of just took it and ran with it ever since.
That's awesome. I mean, I think the issue with flipping houses a lot of times is when you go into it, you don't realize like there could be a lot of surprises, a lot of things coming up. And then if it takes longer and the market changes, the market shifts, and now prices are going down. We've had some issues like that
Yep.
recently with some recent flips. So at least you know what you're getting. You're getting a brand new house also. You know what, your return is pretty much going to be unless the market goes down. And in a declining market, you can adjust for that anyways. Would you say that your market is declining or what market are you in?
Yeah, so we primarily do our deals in Greenville, South Carolina metro. We're starting to expand a little bit into North Carolina, and we've done some stuff in Florida and Tennessee as well. I would say as a whole, yes. A lot of our friends that are flippers or spec builders, they're really struggling right now. Things are sitting on the market for them for 6 months plus. For us, our typical sales price in Greenville for our new mobile homes is about 220 to 230. The median sales price for a house in Greenville, and don't fully quote me on this, is in the neighborhood of 400,000. So we're
Oh,
coming in
wow.
at 50% of the median sales price. We're having no issues selling ours. I think the longest that we've had one sell in the market was a month or two. But
Wow.
on average, we're selling within a weekend or a week. Um, the only times that we get stuck with them is if it's in a bad neighborhood or if it's on a really busy road or something like that. But generally speaking, we're going under contracts in 10 days or less, I'd say. So we're having no issues selling ours. And I think that's because we're coming in at a price point where there's nothing else really available. And we're selling
Mhm.
a brand new product that actually looks really nice.
Yeah. So what builders are you typically using?
So we use one called Cavco. I think they're owned by Fleetwood. We've used Clayton, we've used Champion. Oftentimes, we're it's dictated by the lead time on the houses. So for the longest time, Clayton was 2 months out. If we order a house, it takes 2 months to get there. With Fabco, they're delivering in a week or two.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
why, yeah, that's why we've been using them because we can just do them extremely fast. Um, a-
And
and,
is
and
it a typical 3.2 2.2? What's the
yes,
square footage?
so there's a lot of options there. The smallest we'll do is a 3.2, which is the smallest side of that is like 1,400 square feet. We'll do 4.2s that go all the way up to 2,000 square feet. It really just depends on the area. I would say on average, we're doing 4.2s that are about 1,700 square feet.
And about what's the cost?
So for us to buy the house with the dealer's license, let's just take the 4.2, 1,700 square feet one. For us, it runs about 70,000.
Mhm.
The setup costs, installing utilities, grading the land, all of that is about 40 to 50,000. And then we're usually
Oh, wow.
paying about 30 grand per lot on the high end. So
Okay.
our all in is usually about 150 for us in our market.
That's awesome. And you're selling them around 220.
Correct. Yes. I think our
Wow.
average sales price is about 230. But yes.
So somebody wanting to get into this, let's talk a little bit about like cost. Are you guys front end like are you paying cash? Were you getting it maybe in the beginning, maybe now it's cash. Were you getting a loan? How was that working?
Yeah, so we're using hard money, private money still. When we first started, that was the most difficult thing because, like I said, no one was talking about this. I didn't know anyone doing it, but that also meant the lenders didn't know anyone doing it. So we always
Right.
had to kind of educate them on what we were offering, and we were able to find a hard money lending company that would take a chance on us. Since then, I think it's grown more in popularity. We have two or three that are nationwide lenders that we'll work with. But someone getting into this, you can use hard money to do it. Uh, it's a little bit different than when you're flipping a house because when you buy the house, the hard money lender has to put up the 70 grand to order the house, and they're putting up that money before the house is even there on site. And so that was kind of a sticking point that we ran into initially with some of these lenders. They're like, well, we're putting up $70,000, but the collateral is not even on site yet. I mean, we still only have the $30,000 lot as collateral. So that was kind of a sticking point with some of them, but we've moved through that since then. But yeah,
So
you
are
absolutely
you
can earn
going
money.
in are you going in as basically like a builder? It's like a ground up construction type of deal.
Yeah, essentially, they do view it as kind of a new construction product. Yes.
Mhm. And are you buying the land with your own money so that way you have or are you doing it as a package with that lender? So the lender's actually putting up the money for the land also.
They're putting out the money for the land as well.
What lenders are you using?
There's one called Windstone. That's the one that we primarily have worked with. They're in South Carolina, Georgia, I think North Carolina as well. I think maybe even Florida. I can't remember. Um, Rehab Wallet started recently doing that. They're nationwide. They recently started funding land home projects. Investors Capital is another one. They're nationwide. They started doing them. I think we have one or two others, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to hear that because a lot of times, people have an idea and they're listening to this podcast and they're like, I want to do that, but they don't really know the logistics. They think they need all the cash
Right.
and you really don't. I mean, I don't know what your terms are, but on a traditional fix and flip, an experienced investor is only putting down 10%.
Yeah.
Now, 90% loan to cost, and they're getting 100% of the renovation costs
Yeah.
financed, which
Yep.
is awesome. Which is awesome, but at the same time, you gotta make sure that your after repair value is there, because if not, then it's gonna create a problem, especially when you go to sell it, but
100%. Yeah, and our financing is roughly the same. We'll put down 10%. Uh, since we've done a lot of these, now they'll fund 100% usually. But when we were starting, 10, 15% is what they wanted us to put down.
right, and then what is the interest on those?
They're steep. On the
Like,
low end, so yeah, some of the new lenders that we got are 2 and 12. Winston was 14 and like 3.5 points. Um, Given with Winston, they didn't have all the doc prep fees and all that. It was just a flat 3.5 points. But it's a little bit steeper, I think, than house flipping. I haven't flipped a house in a year or two, so I don't really know. But it's, I think, a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, the fix and flip, it just depends on the lender, but a lot of mine are around 2.5 upfront, 2.5 points, which is 2.5% of the loan amount. And then we're looking around, we were 12% before, now we're in the nines.
Wow.
Maybe even eights. Yeah, rates have come down
Oh
on
my
that
gosh.
product. And a lot more people there's a lot more lenders that are lending on that also. So it's also gotten a lot
Sure.
more competitive for
Well,
those lenders.
now I feel like I'm getting fleeced.
Shop around, I'm a lender. So your return on investment is basically what? It's almost 100%? Like what it
Yeah, so on average in our market, we're netting about 40, 45,000. That's after everything and after cost of financing. Um,
Right.
so that's our average net on each of these. And like I said, I mean, oftentimes we're doing 100% financing, so I guess it'd be infinite in that sense. If you based it on the 150 that we have in it and 25%, but let me take that back. When we do these transactions, if I buy a piece of land today, the house is usually set up and listed on the market within 60 days. And then after that, we're usually closed out another 45 to 60 days. So to start to
Okay.
finish, we buy a piece of land, we're sold in 4 months on average. So in theory, we can turn that money 3 times per
Right.
year.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about location because it sounds like you're doing these projects in an area that you're not physically located in. Is that right?
Yeah, my partner Robert is located there.
Oh, okay.
I just moved beginning of this year, so I was there for the longest time. However, we have a bunch of people in our group. I mean, we got a guy in Brazil that's doing these in America, and we got another guy in Texas doing them in Florida, a guy in Boston doing them in Tennessee. So you don't have to be local to do them by any means.
Okay. So what are you looking for? So let's just say an investor comes in and they want to start doing something like this and their area might not be good. And I can tell you my area in Florida is probably not the best because with our flood insurance and all of this other stuff that we have in this area. So if somebody wanted to, do this, what should they be looking for in terms of making sure it's a good investment, a good area?
Yeah, step one is finding out what you can expect to sell them for. When we started this, there was no one doing it. So the cost we had to go off of was used mobile homes that were either renovated or needed a little bit of work still. What we look for is a minimum sales price of 200,000. If you can't get at least 200 for it, then it's not a good market to do these in, because our costs are pretty fixed. It's the same. The house is going to cost the same for the most part, whether you're doing it in Florida or you're doing it in South Carolina. And same
Hmm.
with cost of setup and all of that. So our costs are pretty fixed. You need to be able to get at least 200. If it's in a market where it can sell for only 200, then you probably need to be getting the land at 15, 20,000 for it to pencil out. But that's the first step. And when you're looking at those comps, used mobile homes can be a little deceiving. Some people will go in there and fully renovate them, and it's granite countertops, stone showers, and all that. Our houses aren't as nice as that, but they are really nice. So if you see a bunch of highly renovated ones, I would dial back the ARV a little bit in order to compete with those. But that's step one. And then the next thing is just seeing what does land generally sell for there. Oftentimes we can pay a retail price for the land that we're buying, just because the numbers still pencil out like that. So I would look to see what our house is selling for, and then I would just go on Zillow and get a general idea of what land is selling for. What can you pick up a half acre lot for, something like that. But those are the main two things. And then I would also look at days on market for the mobile homes that are selling. But usually that's not an issue because, like I said, in our market, we're coming in at 50% of the median sales price of houses. And what I found is other people doing this across the country, similar, they're going in at 50%, 60% of the median sales price. They're not having a hard time selling them.
Hmm. So in Florida, one of the concerns people have, and I don't know if you know about this or can attest to it or whatever, but a lot of times people are like mobile home, Florida, hurricanes, and I think they're making them withstand, a very, very high winds. I'm not sure. I obviously your market doesn't really matter, right? But do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so we're a lot more inland. So we use what's called a wind zone one house. If you're towards the coast, they'll require wind zone two or wind zone three, which is able to withstand those winds or hurricanes like you're describing. So they have built them to compensate for that. Those houses are slightly more expensive, but not by much, maybe a couple $1,000s in comparison. But they do have model houses that will work pretty much anywhere, whether you're on the coast or in Florida or whatever.
Right. And then let's talk about lot prep. So you got the lot, you got the house. What has to happen on that lot and who are you getting? Is it a general contractor? Is it what has to happen for that to be placed on the lot?
Yeah, so before the house arrives, you're gonna have to clear and grade the land so that there's a pad ready for the house to sit on. Once the house is on site, you'll have a mobile home installer go and block and tie it down. The trim and all the interior finishes aren't set up in the house yet. It comes with all the materials, but they don't do it because they get damaged in transport. So that installer will
Okay.
go in there and do the trim out, put it in the trim, all that jazz. Then we have to build decks on the house. We'll do the brick skirting. You don't have to do brick for it to be FHA compliant. There are other options. In Florida, I know they're not doing brick down there very much, but we do it in our market. You have to do an outdoor HVAC unit. It has an internal furnace, but you need the outdoor unit. We'll do the gravel driveway typically, some minor landscaping, the electrical to have power at the house, septic tank if it's on septic or sewer, and water lines or well. Uh, you can do, it's not a general contractor, no. A licensed mobile home installer is completely different than a contractor. You have to have one of those because they have to pull the permits and all that to do it. And we're typically subbing everything out. Like our grading and clearing guy will also do our septic and our water lines. But if you don't have someone that can do multiple things, and you'll have to sub it out indirectly. There are some companies that are like a one-stop shop. They'll order the house for you and do the install, but we found that they'll typically charge 20 or $30,000 more than if we just do it all ourselves, and that just eats into our margins too much.
So for that, for the lot prep and all of that, you're averaging what? 30,000, 40?
If on average, our whole setup cost is 40 to 50,000. That's including installing the house, grading, clearing, HVAC, electrical, driveway, septic, water lines, all of that. Our average cost for just clearing and preparing land is about 10 to 15,000.
Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about coaching. So you guys started a coaching company or are you just in a coaching company?
Yeah, we did. So it's me and Robert, and then we have a third partner, Brent Bowers, who also owns the Land Sharks program. We actually met Brent at a conference a couple years
Oh,
ago.
I think I've had him on my podcast.
You probably have. But he's a cool dude. But we met him at a conference, and he was like, "Man, you guys need to teach this because no one else is, and it's awesome." And so he kind of came in and helped us do that, and it was a perfect marriage because he teaches people how to find land, and that's the first step in all this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do. It's called the Land Home League. If people are interested, they can go to thelandsharks.com and book called Brent to discuss it. But yeah, we teach people how to do these land home packages start to finish. We hold their hands. It's group calls. It's one-on-one coaching. It's pretty much whatever you need it to be.
You know what I was just thinking? I have several investors that are doing and making good money with Airbnbs. I mean, this could potentially be something that people are buying and then, renting them out as Airbnbs also. That could be another avenue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, very much so. I have never Airbnb'd one before, but some of these houses, I mean, you walk in, and you're like, wow, I thought I'm standing in a stick-built house. I mean, some of them are very nice.
Yeah.
So I certainly think it could work for an Airbnb.
Absolutely. And just so people kind of, because some people might be thinking, well, how can I do that? Right. If you're getting into investing, then you get in with not a fix and flip, but a hard money ground up construction type of loan, which I believe that's what you're doing.
Yep.
They're fronting the money for the land, as well as basically everything, right? And you're
Yep.
putting 10% down plus closing costs.
Yep.
Once that's fixed on the property, then you can refinance that into a regular investment property loan. Where our rates right now on the DSCR loans are awesome. If you have good credit, you're in the low sevens.
Wow.
And for those, yeah, for those DSCRs, if you put a prepayment penalty on there, but I've even seen some, I think, in the high sixes, just 50% loan to value though, but still great credit, 50% prepayment penalty. I locked at like 6.625. So no income required on those loans. It's only based on rental income. And we're doing home equity line of credit DSCR loans also. So that could be a really great, transition for somebody that's looking to hold these properties.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I say this, I want to preface I'm not an accountant or an attorney, but my accounting firm, what they'll do, I keep a lot of mobile homes and have mobile home parks and all that. The value of the mobile home, they'll deduct 100% of it in year one. So if you pay 70 for the house and you keep it as an Airbnb, you can get the $70,000 write off for that house
Wow.
to go against your income because it's considered personal property. Now, if you do that, you can't detitle it, which means permanently affix it to the land. You have to keep the title separately from the land, but you can do that as well. So if you hold them long term, there's a lot of tax benefit as well.
So let me ask you though, if you're refinancing into a regular loan, let's just say FHA,
Yeah.
doesn't it have to be fixed?
If you do FHA, yes.
Okay.
What I found is if you can go to a small like local bank or something, if you already have a banking relationship, or maybe even a DSCR lender, I'm not sure. Uh, my local bank will fund them even if I hold the title separately.
Okay. Yeah, now that I think about it, there are lenders out there that will because there's a lot of communities where they're not like the way that it's almost looked at as like a car, I guess, or something. Like you have title to it. Like I don't know how but most lenders will not lend on that. You do need to find a lender that will. I mean, there are some out there. I think it's American Heritage or something. I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah, they exist. Now their rates might be slightly higher, but if you're able to get a tax benefit like that, it may offset it, and it makes sense.
Right. Well, this was awesome. I think you brought a ton of value and a lot of information. And I do think anybody that is looking to get into this, coaching is huge. I've been in coaching my entire life. I, totally believe in coaching. So the landsharks.com, if they're wanting to get into your land home league, is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And then if anyone's interested, go check them out. And this is really I think it's a great opportunity for investors that might be looking to do something different, get out of the fix and flips right now because you don't know what you're getting into all the time. And could be losing more money than you're actually making, where this seems definitely a lot more predictable. So thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So landsharks.com, everybody, go check it out if you want to get into mobile home investing. I think it's a great investment. Thank you for listening, and we will see you guys later. If today's episode opened your eyes to what's possible with AI and automation, here's the next step. At Done by One, we help entrepreneurs and sales professionals audit, automate, and implement AI into their business without the overwhelm. You can book a business audit to see where you need to implement AI and automation. Get set up with the Done by One CRM to run your business on autopilot, or take our AI courses to build your own AI tools and assistants. Do not wait until you're playing catch up. Head on over to Done by One at donebyone.ai and take action today, because the businesses that implement AI now are the ones that will win tomorrow. And remember, let's be done and be done by one.